Hey, security peeps, we are live with another edition of Breaking into Cybersecurity. I'm Renee Small, cybersecurity super recruiter, helping to, well, I guess Cybersecurity Awareness Month is over, so I'm not helping to demystify cybersecurity careers anymore. But I'm back on Monday. It's Mondays with Dan. Say hi to everybody, Dan.
How are you all doing today?
I think everybody is well. So we are going to kick it off today talking about performance. And it is November 2nd. There are less than 60 days to the end of the year. I know I, for one, and many other people are currently thinking about, end of the year goals or what we set for ourselves at the beginning of the quarter, beginning of the year, and what is coming down to now. And so, Dan, we're going to talk about performance.
Okay.
And the big question is, what does your wish list look like?
Right. So these are the, it's very interesting that when I work with senior executives and people put together development plans for them, when it comes down to one-on-one, they say, here's what I need. Here's what I want to have happen. And I always ask people a question: what do you have happen right now? What do you need to have happen right now that's not happening? And what's in the way of it happening? What's in the way of it? What's stopping it from happening? Some of the things are easily identified, others are not. And Renee and I, for years, have been dealing with the invisible blocks to people's success, people who block you, philosophies that block you. But I thought what it might be interesting is to go through some of the things that executives ask for on their wish list and talk about them a bit. So, they talk about increasing concentration. I need to increase my concentration. And my question is, okay, what gets in the way of your concentration? Well, I get distracted. And then the question comes back, what distracts you? And it becomes incumbent on people who want to really do well quickly is to identify early anything that distracts them. And we have a great example of distraction, and you could try it right now. Sit up straight in your chair. Start to move your right foot clockwise, round and round, round and round, round and round, round and round. While it's going round and round with your right hand, draw a big number 6 in the air. And you'll notice that your foot goes backwards. So what that indicates is that you can't afford 1 second of distraction if you want to perform at your best. Now,
that's like my favorite exercise.
I know. So, but the question comes back to who uses this. To who is it really, really important that they identify their distractions? Well, certainly, I said to a hockey goaltender one time, what's it like when you perform at your best? He says, well, I don't hear any crowds. The puck is the size of a dinner plate, and the game moves very slowly. And he said, when any one of those 3 things change, I know I'm losing my concentration. And I said, okay, what do you do then? He said, well, I hope that it comes back. And Renee and I have talked about for years, hope is not a strategy. I hope I get the right person. I hope I recruit the right cybersecurity person. That's not the same as finding somebody who can help you do it. You're going to do it all by yourself. You're going to do it with somebody else. But the way to shut that down and the way to increase your concentration is very interesting. Just look up and focus intently on the upper right-hand corner of your laptop screen. And imagine your eyes are lasers, you're focusing on that corner, and become aware of something out of your left peripheral vision, become aware of something out of your right peripheral vision, and then get all those 3 things together. And when you have all 3 things together, what you'll discover is you can't think of anything. So when you want to bring yourself right back into what you're concentrating on, all you have to do is expand your peripheral vision right and left. So who uses it? People use it all the time. People who use it don't talk about it. This is a very powerful competitive edge strategy tied in with some other things that we do to give somebody control over their mind game.
So Dan, when a person is looking from the left side. So when we just did that exercise and you can't think of anything else, is that to jolt you out of the distraction so that you can refocus?
Yeah, it moves a distraction out of the way. It makes a distraction less critical, and it brings you back into what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
For the hockey goaltender, he's looking at the puck. But for somebody else, it depends what they're trying to accomplish. It's important for people who have to study,
Mm-hmm.
who have to concentrate, or people who think they can multitask. That example shows you that you can't multitask. You don't do one thing well at a time.
That is true.
And so the question is, how do you come from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next? People who do that really well are football quarterbacks. They'll send out a bunch of people on a play, and they just scan the horizon, scan the field, and their subconscious mind tells them where to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So,
Dan, let's shout a couple people out before we continue.
Sure.
Philip Wells, hello. He says, good day, Renee and Dan.
Hi, Phil.
And Sepper, our friend, he says he's late, but hello. Hello. Happy to see you here. So go ahead, Dan. Continue on with ways to not be distracted.
What else comes down the line for them is to control things that would distract them. So what distracts you? Emotion distracts you. I work with some people who are currency traders who tell me that when they feel emotion in a trade, they know they're in trouble. And that's the same thing. People think that, that anger works for them, empowers them, but it doesn't. Anger distracts. I have a client who is an ultramarathon runner. She runs the Badwater, which is 135 miles through Death Valley. In the first 10 miles of the last race we worked on, one of her support crew made a mistake that could have gotten her disqualified. She got very angry, and she said, Dan, I carried anger for 120 miles. And she says, it drained me. So it's what impacts you negatively. It's becoming more self-aware. And why do you do that? You do it because it's going to block you from getting to where you want to go. So what's the dream? What's your dream? Where do you want to be? And that's why we work backwards. And we've talked about this for years. Every one of my clients today is in 2025 working backwards. And this is not goal setting. This is dreaming. Because you start to use your subconscious mind to accomplish what you want. When you do that exercise with the peripheral vision over and over and over and over again in a variety of situations, it moves into your subconscious mind. And then you'll just find it happening without you even thinking about it. And that's what the issue is here, is how do you get high performance strategies into your subconscious mind and use them to work for whatever you're trying to do. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that much of what the people on this call do to protect their company is subconscious. They just, without even thinking about it, they know it. And so it's the level of unconscious competence that we've talked about before. What do you do really well that you're not even aware that you do? And how do you maximize that for your current job, for managing people, for transitioning, for training the people underneath you, for mentoring people? All of those things become important. But none of it has to do with cybersecurity. It all has to do with mental performance.
Right.
So I don't care whether you're a triathlete, or you're a golfer, or you're a football player, or you're somebody trying to negotiate a contract. I mean, I spoke to a guy the other day, and you know what kind? We talked about mistakes, and this is a very interesting diversion. I said to the guy, give me an example of he's a project manager for huge real estate projects. And he said, when people put a team together, which Renee helps people put teams together, when they put a team together, sometimes the wrong people assemble a team. And he said, so, you may have a lawyer who's very good at what he does, but may not be the best one at a lease. So I said to him, give me one example. He said, well, there's a very famous restaurant in New York that he was helping with renovating and doing the construction work on. And the owner of the restaurant said, I'm going to sign the lease and then you can start. He said, don't sign the lease without me looking at it. He says, no. My lawyer drew the lease up. And my friend said, let me see the lease first. He says it was a 200-page lease. And he looked through it. He says, the only change you need to make is add the word latent into the script. When he entered the word latent into the contract, it saved his client $150,000. One word. So what's the value of the word latent? And it comes back to everything that we talk about with cybersecurity people. People don't know what you know. They don't know how to ask the right questions. And so, it's helping people to identify personal strategic plans. What gets in the way? What blocks them?
Yeah.
But the key issue is, how do you interact with somebody to get them to understand how important it is to not deal with you when they're not dealing with you? What does it cost not to hire Renee? What did it cost not to hire my friend or not to let him review the lease?
Right.
$150,000. So,
one word.
One word in one paragraph. And so I'm sure there are situations that you all could write about, jot us a note about, or talk about, or ask a question about, where you've done exactly the same thing. And clearly and possibly saved a lot more than $150,000.
I know that if we put that question out, which I'm actually going to do that today. I'm going to put that question out there because I can almost guarantee that a huge percentage of the population that's watching this has saved people so much money.
Right.
So I can't imagine. I would love to see the different stories that and the numbers that show up when we put that out there. So I'm definitely going to put that out.
Sure. And in reality, that's a way to increase, to answer a question we asked a couple of weeks back. How do you let people know when you're interviewing that they need you? Not somebody like you. I was with my tech guy here yesterday, and he did some absolutely amazing work for me. And I said to him, you're amazing, what you did. I said, you need to understand why God made your arm so long. He said, why God made? I said, so you could pat yourself on the back from time to time. But it's very hard because a lot of what we talk about is invisible. A lot of the things that I help people discover about moving forward or negotiations are invisible. It's invisible to them, not invisible when somebody else is looking at it, but invisible to them.
Yeah.
So, it's the black swans. What comes in that doesn't belong there, that you don't expect, that you're not looking for. That's, I can't believe there's not a book in just the people that are on this call. And so it's, how do you sell yourself to somebody? How do you make sure that your clients are asking the right questions? How do you understand that your level of knowledge is intimidating to people because you just know stuff that they don't know? And it comes back to the concept of selling mistakes. What does it cost somebody not to buy mistakes that other people have made? Why would I ever want to buy a mistake? Well, it's a lot cheaper to buy somebody else's than it is to make it yourself.
Than that $150,000 one-word mistake.
Right. And people, when you hear people pitch themselves and talk about themselves, I provide solutions Well, if you have the mistake first and you don't make it, you don't need to pay for the solution. So it's how do you, and I've told this story. I think it was classic. We asked a couple of weeks back. We said, what keeps you up at night? Guy says, nothing. He said, I sleep like a baby. He said, I sleep for 2 hours and I'm up crying, and I sleep for another 2 hours and I'm up crying. But what we talked about was, who's not up crying? The guy who hired you.
Right.
The
the CISO's crying, the first CISO, but
right.
The CEO and the CTO and whoever he reports to is sleeping
right
all night.
So, people talk about, there's a wonderful book called Selling the Invisible. It's an old book. I can remember it from years ago. We even talked about it when we started working together. But are you really letting people know what you're really selling?
Philip says, interesting in concept. One word can make a difference. $150,000, Dan.
Right. So it's the contract was drawn by somebody who was really good at drawing contracts, but not good at construction project management. This guy's got a huge project offshore, and all he's doing is putting together the right people and making sure they're asking the right questions. But he's absolutely invaluable. Plus, he's an expert witness. I've helped him work on being an expert witness for construction. So, this is the kind of guy you want, but people don't know that. You just can't go to the yellow pages. It was interesting. I was at a meeting, and a CPA I know was saying how a new client he got had a $40,000 tax penalty. And I said to him, well, how could that happen? He said, well, his previous CPA had to deal with a particular issue, and he told him he thought he could do it. Thinking you can do it is not the same as knowing you can do it. It's like you don't want to go to an orthopedist if you have a broken hand and have him say, oh, I think I can fix this. Oh, no. So it's the language, and Phil, you're right. It's one word, but what's the play on it?
Yeah.
So what we're about here, and what I'm about, is helping people get competitive edge strategies and move forward and arrange and design these kind of conversations before they need them. Yeah.
Dan, you talked about the emotional aspect, which I know the hot emotions are raging right now. Any ideas, tips, recommendations in that space?
Sure. I think the thing is, when you take that's those people calling you again, Renee.
Started late.
I know. They knew where you were, but the thing is that it's you being able to step back and take a look at what's going on. So it's almost being able to overhear the conversations you have with yourself. So I would use Renee as an example. What does Renee hear Renee saying to Renee when Renee overhears Renee talking to Renee?
So it's like an outer body experience. It's like you're stepping outside of yourself.
You step outside of yourself and you listen to the conversations. And then when you hear yourself saying something, you don't say, oh, I shouldn't be talking that way about myself. What you need to use it as an experiment and sit back and say, okay, who's around me? What do I have to confront that I'm coming up on in the next couple of hours or days, or what generated it? And that way you will know before you go into that situation that that's a potential. I have a great story. I was in Geneva with Hewlett-Packard, and there was a guy there who runs Ireland for Hewlett-Packard. And he said to me, somebody told me you work with golfers. He said, I'm going into a golf tournament. Can I talk to you? I said, sure. So he said to me, there's only 3 of us in this club. He said, I'm a 3 handicap. The other 2 guys are scratch golfers. And he said, I'm afraid I'm going to get intimidated or embarrassed in the club and all of that kind of stuff. And so he said, how can you help me? I said, well, I can help you control the way you talk to yourself. He said, that's ridiculous, talking to myself. He said, he said, and I was leaving for New York, and we were going to be on phone calls once a week for the next 2 months. So he said to me, the first phone call he made, he said, you're not going to believe what happened. I said, surprise me. He said, I was going to a multi-million-dollar negotiation for my division. He says that on the way there, I could hear myself saying, these guys have a lot more experience. They're going to embarrass you. That. He said it was the same conversation I was having with myself that I was having with the golf thing. So now we need to work on self-talk for both of them. And if anybody has this negative self-talk that they hear themselves beating themselves up, and Renee knows this, I'm talking to people that we worked with. I said, if you're working with me, you need my permission to beat the crap out of yourself. You can't just go about doing it. But if you hear this negative self-talk, how do you control it? The first thing you do is push your tongue up at the roof of your mouth, and it will stop instantly. Whatever the contaminating conversation is that you hear yourself having with yourself, put your tongue up on the roof of your mouth, and it'll stop instantly. Now, the best part is knowing you can shut it off. Because if you leave it play, it's like getting in your car and somebody else sets the radio station to music you absolutely hate, and you leave it on for a 4-hour trip. No, you don't do that. But and then to keep it, and the other thing to keep in mind is everything that we're talking about here is going on with people you're talking to, people who you manage, people who you're recruiting, people who you report to, people who they report to. And sometimes we've discovered that delivering the right message, structured correctly to the right group of people, can accomplish an awful lot that's really not expected when you start to hit in on the things that really concern people.
Yeah. A couple comments came through. Robert says proactive versus reactive mindset. I love it.
Right.
And Melody says absolutely, and she's talking to Robert.
Well, you're right, but the thing is that proactive requires preparation for competition. You have to. My strategy, and you can take this any way you like it, but it really works. You have to profile the person you're talking to. I have an individual, and anybody who wants the profile, send me an email. I'll send you the profile. It's single, married, divorced, separated, gay, straight, how they communicate, what their background is, what they need to have happen, what their position is in the company, where do they want to go in their next move. So it really all turns down to the individual, because that's really all they're concerned about. When I talk about people who sell mistakes, look at the mistakes that their clients made before they became their client, and what those mistakes cost them in money, emotion, and reputation. Money, it's got to be astronomical with the people on this call. Emotion, somebody who's looking to move up within a company makes the wrong call, clicks on the wrong thing. And then reputation, it's their reputation going forward. So it's important that people understand that these things are all invisible, and it has nothing to do with, it has to do with the mind game of the people you're dealing with.
Totally. Absolutely does. I think the mind game is so important. It's the most important thing. People don't realize that the mindset part is just so critical to everything else.
Sure.
And that's all you do. I mean, everything you talk about.
That's right. And it really transcends every aspect of this. I just sent a note out to somebody today who runs triathlons. And we broke down, and if anybody here runs triathlons, just shoot me a note. I'll send you this tri survey. So, it's really having somebody look at the 3 events that they have to run, how they talk to themselves. Clifford is right. Your mindset shows through your physical presence. That's right. Body language is very, very important today.
Mm-hmm.
However, what's going on today is that people are restricted from using that advantage, because a lot of this is on Zoom calls.
Yeah.
So how do you come across on a Zoom call? How do you protect somebody with that kind of information?
Right. So what happened with the triathlon?
We went through each aspect of the triathlon. We looked at the swim portion, the bike portion, and the marathon portion. And so it was looking at each one of those to find out what the internal conversation was that the person was having with themselves about that event before they got into it. So they would know and wait. They knew how to deal with what was going on. But the best part about this whole situation that we're talking about here is that you can stop negative and contaminating performance issues just in seconds if you know how to do it. And we just did the strategies here today. So it's how do you not let those things get in your way? And then we talk about identifying subconscious blocks. What gets in the way? What do you see that's not there? So I have a guy who's a real estate developer, and I helped him with some negotiation strategies that he was dealing with. And he said to me, I'm a 12 handicap golfer, but I can't play well 50 yards in. But not all the time, just sometimes. We discovered that the only time he can't play well 50 yards in is when he's playing against somebody who makes more money than he does. Mm-hmm. This guy buys 7 figures. So the question is that what does he have to do before he plays these people? Really, he has to understand their wealth, and he has to talk to himself differently about that. Yeah. And we use hypnosis with professional athletes and people who want to perform really well to get these concepts into your subconscious mind quickly. Because one of the biggest obstacles, Renee, is impatience. People just are not patient. And a professional athlete probably takes 3 to 4 months before these concepts get into their subconscious mind without them even thinking about it.
And when you say 3 to 4 months, is that 3 to 4 months working on this daily, working with you once a week, twice a week?
Well, so I have a variety of offerings for people, but some people will talk to me once a month, twice a month, or 4 times a month. Mm-hmm. But what I used to do, using football as an example, when and Chad Pennington, quarterback for the Jets and Dolphins, wrote the foreword to my book, we would get the NFL schedule, and we go down the list of teams that they would be playing, and I'd say, give me the first word that comes to your mind when we mention this team, and he'd give me that word, and we'd find out how he was talking to himself about that. And the other thing is, what do you bring into the environment that doesn't belong there? I mean, what does somebody bring into the workplace that doesn't belong there that's distracting? What does somebody bring onto a soccer field or a football field into a pool that's distracting? And how do you become aware enough about it to leave it outside?
Yeah.
The ultramarathon runner that I talked about, we developed a trunk card. It's a little card like an index card. Mm-hmm. Write on the card anything that's going on in your life that could be distracting to you while you're going into this event. And you put it in the trunk of your car, you slam the trunk, and you come back to that card when your day is finished. And your subconscious mind, when you do it enough, will let you transfer the time to another time.
Right. So when she slams that trunk, that's in there until she opens it back up.
Right. Now, here's the key. This will work as long as she goes back and opens it up and reads what's there and deals with whatever these issues were. But if you don't go back, your subconscious mind says, sorry, pal, I gave you a shot at this and you blew it. So, and it's the same thing like worry. Everybody talks about how much worrying is, what worry bothers. I have a worry strategy. And
Tell them the worry strategy. I love this one.
You pick a time of day, let's say from 5 to 5:15 at night, when you do absolutely nothing but worry. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you're worrying, you go 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Your subconscious mind will let you put the worry off but you have to show up in a corner to worry about stuff. But as crazy as it sounds, noticing the worry, noticing it as distraction, noticing the distraction early, gives you a tremendous amount of control over the outcome.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens. Like, when everything else is swirling around and you're feeling out of control, having these techniques that you've been doing for years and years and helping so many different people, having these techniques so that you can pull on them from your toolbox, right? Because exactly. Dan says, stare in the corner, or put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, or, take that worry, write it on a card, put it in your trunk, slam it, and you're, come back to it later, or worry for at 5 o'clock. Like, you can push that stuff to the side.
Sure. And I mean, anybody who's a football fan understands the 40-second play clock.
Yeah.
That when you have a play and a play is over, it's called down, the quarterback has 40 seconds to get the next play launched. He doesn't have time to ruminate over what didn't go well.
Yep.
So he has to have a time to review that. So we'd pick a time at night, whatever time worked. But you could take this whole block of concern and stuff that you'd want to review and take it back to another time when you can handle it, when it's out of the way. So it's scheduling a time for yourself.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is that understanding that you're in a team. You don't know how everybody else is dealing with this. So this is why, as a team concept, I worked with a soccer team for a year, and we did a lot of this, helping them not take something onto the field that didn't belong there. A guy has a fight with his girlfriend. He comes in, and so that distracts him. You just don't know.
Right.
I had a guy who's a hockey goaltender. He said to me, "Doc," he said, "I got a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "I have a girlfriend." He said, "Okay." I said, "But I'm waiting for the problem." He said, "She's really gorgeous. She looks like she stepped out of a magazine." And I said, "I'm still waiting for the problem." He says, "The problem, she sits behind my bench, and I can see every guy who's trying to hit on her or pick her up or buy her a drink." I said, "Tell her I saw her picture. I think she's gorgeous, but she's got to sit behind your net. You can't be trying to stop a 100-mile-an-hour puck worried about who's sitting next to your girlfriend." So, but again, we were able to identify that.
Yeah. Identification is key. Okay, couple good comments here, Dan, and we are already at 33 minutes. Goodness. Robert says, absolutely, mindset determines attitudes, behavior, and habits. He also says this profiling concept is very intriguing. It makes so much sense. And compartmentalizing your worries. Wow, very interesting.
I think Robert, I'd love to have a conversation with Robert. So Robert had my Calendly link. After the 5th of November, I'll be free to talk to people after we do this. We're doing a golf and a mind game program on November 5th for 100 people as a client attraction business development program. But I'd love to talk to Robert if he wants to get in touch with me.
Yeah, totally. And Robert, you can find Dan's info, or if you want to ping me, I'll give it to you, or it's on his website. And then Melody says, the mindset is what changes everything. It's not just going in with the confidence. It's also with positivity, skills, and self-awareness of knowing you fulfill the job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
And being able to project that to other people.
Yeah.
Knowing what you do well and complimenting yourself for doing it well. I mean, you don't have to be bragging to people, but you have to acknowledge how good everybody on this call, and I've said this before, knows way more than they know that they know. And that's where we talked, and maybe next week we'll talk about unconscious competence.
We should.
Yeah.
We should. That was on my, I feel like, oh, Robert said he's going to be in touch. He would love to learn more. So perfect.
Good.
Unconscious competence is so funny because when we were joining, that was what I was like, what, you want to talk about unconscious competence? So definitely something that we should talk about next week. And if anyone else has another topic that they would like to talk about, let us know. Dan is on every single Monday. We are at the 35-minute mark, so I want to wrap right now. Dan, you have any final things you want to say to the folks before we say goodbye?
Yeah, the basic question I ask everybody is, what do you personally need to have happen right now that's not happening? We can help you help the people that work with you, but what do you need right now that's not happening? Yeah. And how quickly do you want it to happen? And slow doesn't work for people anymore. So anybody who wants to get in touch with me, there's a way to make this happen very, very fast.
Yeah. Miriam's asking a question here, but Miriam, we both have to run. So we'll hold on to your question for next week about imposter syndrome. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about unconscious competence. And we will be back next Monday with Dr. Dan. Mondays with Dan every single Monday at 11-ish Eastern. Dan, see you next week.
We'll see you next week. I can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait. Next week will be fun.
Okay, so we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye everybody. Bye.